Education is an important factor to increase the human capital of a country. Many countries pay great attention to education to achieve economic growth and increase living standards. We're going to explore the relationship between education and income per person using three indices of education: mean years in school, youth literacy rates, and school enrollment rates. We're going to look into the education policies and statistics of some countries and find something behind the bubbles on Gapminder. The first aspect of education we'll look into is the mean years in school. This is the average number of years the population has attended school. Schooling is the basis for education. It will most likely increase the productivity and income of a country. We'll focus on the 25 years and older age group and examine the correlation between the mean years in school and income. Overall, the trend is upwards and to the right. This means that there is a positive correlation between the mean years in school and income. For example, India's bubble has a steady positive slope showing a positive correlation between the two variables. In India, primary education begins at age 6 with middle to upper primary school education ending at age 14. Secondary education continues to be free at government schools, and it begins in grade 9 and lasts until grade 12. In 1970, the mean years in school for men 25 years and older was 2.3, and the income was $1,170. In 2009, the mean years was 6.2, and the income increased to $4,180. For women in the same group, the mean years of schooling was 0.6, and the income was $1,170 in 1970. In 2009, the mean years of schooling was 3.4 years, and the income was $4,180. Other graphs included on Gapminder show more years of education for young people and a higher income for these people as well. As education systems improve and become more accessible, countries improve overall. On average, the more years someone is in school, the greater their income in the future.
Another important index of education is literacy rate, which is an indication of people's basic reading and writing abilities. Higher literacy rate means that more people can read simple passages, communicate with others using written language, and receive continuing education. Therefore, literacy rate is critical to increasing the productivity and income of a country. Let's look at the correlation between the youth literacy rate and income. Take China as an example. In 1986, the Chinese government issued the policy of 9-year compulsory education, providing free primary and middle school education. When this policy was first issued, the youth literacy rate of China was 91.5%, and income per person was $1,600. In 1995, when the first generation of students receiving free public education completed their 9-year compulsory education, and some of them entered the workplace, the youth literacy rate increased to 96.6%, and the income per person has increased by about 60% since 1978. With the progress of 9-year compulsory education, the catch-up effect of the policy on youth literacy rate in China diminished and changed little every year. However, the policy started to take huge effect on income. Until 1998, when the first generation of students receiving free education graduated from college, while the youth literacy rate merely increased by 8.2%, income per person has increased by 168% since 1986. Hence, we can see the facilitating effect of education on income. Although the boost in income can also be attributed to other policies and investments, education indeed played an important role by increasing the human capital and then boosting the productivity of a country. It takes longer time to see the effect, but the effect is huge and increases exponentially.
Another subcategory we will examine is the number of children not attending primary school. This comparison is more difficult to analyze because of the vast differences between populations of countries. Still, we found results by tracking specific countries. China and India displayed conflicting responses in this Gapminder scenario. Between 1971 and 2000, India's economy experienced a rise in income as more children attended school. However, China's GDP per person similarly increased between 1987 and 2000, as more and more Chinese children were out of school. We can see the China bubble moving upward and to the right. It is still unclear whether primary school attendance affects the nation's income after only taking a look at these two countries. Fortunately, Gapminder allows us to look at data from many different countries. Spain and Thailand are two examples that also support the notion that more children attending school will lead to a greater income for the nation. Like India, Spain and Thailand experienced a growth in income as the number of children out of school declined. This makes sense economically because the more education people receive, the more human capital they will have. Subsequently, this will lead to a more productive economy. India in particular made efforts in support of this idea with the National Policy on Education in 1986 and the Program of Action in 1992. These programs encouraged free and compulsory education for children in India. In support of the programs, India's government budgeted 6% of the nation's GDP to be used for education. As evident from the Gapminder data, this investment India made paid off with a rise in the nation's income. Overall, more years in school, greater literacy rates, and more people in school contribute to higher incomes per person in nations across the world.